Good evening, dear listeners. My name is Helen, and I'm so grateful you're here with me tonight. Please like this video and stay until the end. I promise this story is worth your time. And let me know in the comments which city you're tuning in from. I'd love to see how far my voice travels. For 37 years, I thought I understood loyalty. I believed in promises, in family bonds that couldn't be broken. I raised 3 children in a farmhouse outside Austin, Texas, built a business from scratch, and stood by the people I loved through every storm. At 72 years old, I'd earned these silver streaks in my hair and the right to enjoy some peace. Or so I thought. The first warning came on a humid Thursday in June. I was reviewing the quarterly reports for our family trucking company, the business my late husband Joe and I had built together 40 years ago. After he passed 5 years back, I'd kept it running with the help of our eldest son, Derek. He'd been managing operations for the past 3 years, and honestly, I'd been grateful to step back a little. But something in the numbers didn't add up. 3 major contracts had ended abruptly. Our best drivers were leaving. Expenses had doubled while revenue dropped. When I called Derek to ask about it, his voice was clipped and impatient. "Mom, you're retired. Let me handle the business side. You've done enough." Done enough? I'd built this company from a single truck and a dream. Joe and I had worked 18-hour days, missed holidays, sacrificed everything to make it succeed. And now my own son was brushing me aside like I didn't matter? I let it go. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then the letters started arriving. Past due notices from suppliers I'd worked with for decades. Lawyers' letters about unpaid invoices. A notice from the bank about missed loan payments on equipment I didn't even know we'd financed. I called Derek again. This time, he didn't answer. I called my daughter, Beth. "Mom, Derek said you're getting confused about the business stuff. He said it's normal at your age. Maybe you should just let him handle things." Confused? At my age? I'd been balancing books since before Derek was born. I could recite our profit margins from memory. And now my own children were treating me like I was senile? That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with a pot of coffee and every business document I could find. Bank statements, contracts, tax records. I spread them across the table like pieces of a puzzle I needed to solve. And slowly, the picture became clear. Money was disappearing. Not small amounts, hundreds of thousands of dollars, funneled into accounts I didn't recognize. Equipment had been sold off without my knowledge. Our best clients had been told the company was closing down and were redirected to a competitor. A competitor called Roadmaster Logistics. I'd never heard of them. I pulled up the business registry online, my hands shaking as I typed. When the registration details loaded, my stomach dropped. Roadmaster Logistics. Owner, Derek Patterson. Registered 8 months ago. My son wasn't just mismanaging our family business. He was systematically destroying it while building his own company with our assets, our clients, our reputation. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I had to grip the edge of the table to steady myself. But worse was coming. The next morning, I drove to our company lot unannounced. Derek's truck was there, along with another vehicle I recognized, my younger son Nathan's SUV. Through the office window, I could see them both, heads together over paperwork, laughing about something. Nathan was in on it too. I sat in my car, tears streaming down my face. 2 of my 3 children. The boys I'd raised, sacrificed for, loved unconditionally. They were stealing from me, from their own mother. I gave myself exactly 5 minutes to cry. Then I dried my eyes, started my engine, and drove straight to a lawyer's office. If my sons thought I was too old and confused to fight back, they were about to learn how wrong they were. The lawyer's name was Patricia Chun, recommended by an old friend who'd gone through her own family legal nightmare. Patricia's office was modest but professional, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm and reassuring. "Mrs. Patterson," she said, gesturing to a chair. "Tell me everything." I did. The missing money, the shell company, the stolen clients, my son's conspiracy to push me out of my own business. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking notes, her expression growing more serious. "Do you have documentation?" she asked when I finished. "Some. But Derek controls most of the company records now. He's been blocking my access to the main accounts." Patricia leaned back in her chair, studying me. "Mrs. Patterson, what you're describing is corporate fraud and possibly elder financial abuse. This is serious, but proving it will require getting access to those records, And that means your sons will know you're investigating. I don't care if they know. Even if it means your relationship with them might be permanently damaged. I thought about Derek's dismissive tone, Nathan's complicity, the way they'd looked at each other in that office, like conspirators celebrating a successful con. They damaged the relationship when they decided to steal from me, I said quietly. I'm just protecting what's left. Patricia nodded slowly. Then we'll need a forensic accountant, and we'll need to move quickly before they can hide more evidence. This won't be cheap, Mrs. Patterson. I have savings they don't know about. Money Joe left me separately. How much will it cost? When she told me, I didn't flinch. This was war, and I was willing to pay the price. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a detective in my own life. I hired the forensic accountant Patricia recommended, a sharp woman named Linda Wu who specialized in corporate fraud. I gave her everything I had, old bank statements, emails, contracts, anything that might help build our case. I started documenting every interaction with Derek and Nathan, recording phone calls, legal in Texas with one-party consent, saving text messages, building a timeline of their deception. And I discovered something that made my blood run cold. This had been planned for years. Linda found evidence that Derek had started siphoning money almost immediately after Joe died. Small amounts at first, easy to miss in the grief and chaos of those first months. But it had grown steadily, and when I'd suggested stepping back from day-to-day operations 3 years ago, Derek had seen his opportunity. He'd convinced Nathan to help him about 18 months ago. Together, they'd accelerated the timeline, stripping the company of everything valuable and transferring it to Roadmaster Logistics. Their plan was simple: run our family company into bankruptcy, buy the remaining assets for pennies on the dollar, and rebrand everything under Derek's new company. I'd be left with nothing but debt and a ruined legacy. And my daughter Beth? She knew nothing. They'd kept her in the dark, fed her lies about my confusion, so she wouldn't question what was happening. Mrs. Patterson, Linda said during one of our meetings, her face grave. They've already transferred approximately $1.8 million in assets. Equipment, client contracts, even your company's reputation. If we don't act soon, there won't be anything left to recover. How soon? Days, not weeks. I called a family meeting. Derek was annoyed. Mom, I'm busy. Can this wait? No, I said firmly. Tomorrow night. 6 o'clock. My house. You, Nathan, and Beth. This is not optional. There was a long pause. What's this about? We'll discuss it tomorrow. I hung up before he could argue. That evening, Beth called me, worry in her voice. Mom, Derek said you sounded upset. Are you okay? Is it your health? My sweet daughter. Always assuming the best in people, even when they didn't deserve it. I'm fine, honey. I just need to talk to all of you together. It's important. Okay, she said slowly. Should I be worried? Just be there. They arrived together, Derek and Nathan pulling up in Derek's truck, Beth right behind them. I watched from the window as they walked up the path, Derek's confident swagger, Nathan's nervous glances, Beth's concerned frown. I'd set the dining room table formally. For place settings, a pitcher of sweet tea, and in the center, a manila folder thick with documents. Mom, Beth entered first, giving me a hug. What's going on? You're scaring me. Sit down, sweetheart. Derek and Nathan followed, exchanging looks I pretended not to see. Derek noticed the folder immediately. His jaw tightened. When everyone was seated, I remained standing. I want to thank you all for coming, I began, my voice steady despite the hammering of my heart. I know you're busy, especially you boys with your business ventures. Derek's eyes narrowed. Mom, I'm not finished. I'd never used that tone with my children before. Derek's mouth snapped shut. For 5 years since your father died, I've trusted you. I stepped back from the company because I thought you had everything under control, Derek. I believed you when you said the business was struggling, that tough decisions had to be made. I opened the folder and pulled out the first document, a bank statement showing transfers to Roadmaster Logistics. But you weren't making tough decisions. You were stealing. Beth gasped. Nathan went pale. Derek's face turned to stone. I don't know what you think you found, Derek said coldly. But Roadmaster Logistics, I interrupted, sliding the business registration across the table. Your company, Derek. Built with our clients, our equipment, our money. And Nathan, you helped him do it. Mom, let me explain, Nathan started. Explain what? How you've stolen $1.8 million from your own family. How you've been running our company into the ground so you could swoop in and buy the scraps. Beth was staring at her brothers, horror dawning on her face. Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't do this. Derek stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You don't understand business, Mom. The company was dying anyway. I was trying to save what I could. By stealing it? My voice rose. By lying to me? By treating me like I was too senile to notice. You are too old, Derek shouted, finally losing his composure. You should have retired years ago. Dad left me in charge because he knew you couldn't handle it. The words hung in the air like poison. Your father left you as operations manager, I said quietly. I own 51% of that company. Me, not you. And you've been stealing from me for 5 years. Nathan had his head in his hands. Derek said it was the only way. He said you'd lose everything if we didn't act. So you decided to take everything instead? Beth was crying now, looking between her brothers and me. How could you do this? To Mom? To our family? Derek's face was ugly with rage. This is your fault, he snarled at me. You held on too long. You should have handed everything over when Dad died, but no, you had to stay in control. Well, guess what? You don't get to control anything anymore. He grabbed his keys. Come on, Nathan. We don't have to listen to this. But Nathan didn't move. He was crying too, his shoulders shaking. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. Derek said. He convinced me. I didn't think. Get up, Derek ordered. Now. No. Nathan's voice was barely a whisper, but it was firm. No, Derek. This is wrong. What we did is wrong. Derek stared at his brother with pure contempt. You're pathetic. Then he looked at me. You want a war, Mom? Fine. But you're going to lose. I have lawyers. I have resources. And I have documentation showing you've been mentally declining for months. By the time I'm done, everyone will know you're not competent to run anything. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. The silence that followed was deafening. Beth moved first, coming to wrap her arms around me. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have asked more questions. This isn't your fault, baby. Nathan was still sitting at the table, tears streaming down his face. I didn't want to do it, he said brokenly. But Derek kept saying it was for the family, that we were protecting the business, protecting you. And I believed him because he's my brother, and I trusted him. I sat down across from Nathan and took his hand. Do you want to make this right? He nodded, unable to speak. Then I need you to testify. I need you to tell my lawyers everything, every transfer, every lie, every piece of evidence that proves what Derek did. He'll never forgive me. I know. My voice was gentle but firm. But this is about doing what's right, not what's easy. Nathan wiped his eyes and looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. I'll do it. Whatever you need. Derek moved fast. Within 48 hours of our confrontation, he filed a petition claiming I was mentally incompetent and requesting guardianship over me and control of all my assets. The document arrived by courier, and reading it made me physically ill. Derek claimed I had dementia, that I was paranoid and delusional, that I'd been making irrational business decisions for years. He'd attached statements from business associates saying I seemed confused and forgetful during meetings. Meetings I later realized Derek had deliberately set me up to fail in. He'd been planning this for months, maybe years. This is actually good news, Patricia said when I called her, panicking. He's desperate. He knows we're onto him, so he's trying to discredit you before we can present our evidence. It means he's scared. It doesn't feel like good news, I said, my voice shaking. He's trying to have me declared incompetent. What if it works? It won't. We'll get you evaluated by independent doctors. We'll show the court you're sharp as a tack. And Mrs. Patterson? This petition gives us legal standing to demand full disclosure of all company finances. Derek just opened a door he can't close. She was right. Within a week, we had court orders forcing Derek to provide complete financial records. And what Linda Wu found in those records was even worse than we'd thought. Derek hadn't just stolen from the company. He'd been defrauding clients, billing them for services never rendered and pocketing the difference. He'd taken out loans in the company's name and transferred the money to his personal accounts. He'd sold equipment and reported it as stolen to collect insurance money. This isn't just civil fraud anymore, Linda told me grimly. This is criminal. Your son could go to prison. The thought should have devastated me. Instead, I just felt numb. The competency hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in August. I barely slept the night before, but I was ready. I'd been evaluated by 2 independent psychiatrists, both of whom found me mentally sound. I'd organized years of business correspondence showing clear, rational decision-making. And I had Nathan, who'd agreed to testify about Derek's manipulation. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Derek sat with his lawyers, expensive suits, confident smiles. He wouldn't even look at me. Beth sat beside me, holding my hand. Nathan sat on the other side, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. Judge Raymond Torres took his seat, a stern man in his 60s with sharp eyes. Let's begin. Derek's lead attorney stood up, a polished woman named Sandra Mitchell. Your Honor, we're here today because Derek Patterson loves his mother and is concerned for her welfare. Over the past year, Helen Patterson has shown clear signs of cognitive decline, making poor business decisions, becoming paranoid about family members, unable to manage complex financial matters. She presented her evidence. The statements from business associates, examples of meetings where I'd seemed confused, instances where I'd supposedly forgotten important details. What she didn't mention was that Derek had been the one feeding me false information before those meetings, setting me up to look incompetent. When it was our turn, Patricia stood calmly. Your Honor, Mrs. Patterson is not here to prove she's a perfect businesswoman. She's here to prove she's mentally competent. And the evidence will show that not only is she competent, but she's sharp enough to have uncovered a massive fraud perpetrated by her own son. Over the next hour, Patricia systematically destroyed Derek's case. The psychiatrists testified that I showed no signs of dementia or cognitive decline. My personal physician confirmed I was in excellent health for my age. Patricia presented emails I'd written showing clear, logical thinking. And then she presented the financial evidence. Your Honor, Patricia said, Mr. Derek Patterson isn't seeking guardianship because he's concerned about his mother's welfare. He's seeking it because she discovered he's been stealing from her. Over the past 5 years, Mr. Patterson has embezzled approximately $1.8 million from the family business. He's created a shell company to hide those assets. And when his mother discovered the truth, he attempted to have her declared incompetent to silence her. Derek's lawyer objected, but Judge Torres waved her down. I'll allow it. Continue, Ms. Chun. Linda Wu was called to testify, walking the court through the financial evidence with devastating precision. Every fraudulent transfer, every fake invoice, every piece of equipment sold and reported stolen. Derek's face grew redder with each revelation. Then Nathan took the stand. Mr. Patterson, Patricia said gently, you're Derek's brother. Why are you testifying against him? Nathan's voice shook, but he spoke clearly. Because what we did was wrong. Derek convinced me that Mom was losing her grip, that we needed to protect the family business. But we weren't protecting anything. We were stealing. And when Mom found out, instead of admitting what he'd done, Derek tried to destroy her reputation. Did your mother ever show signs of mental incompetence? No, never. She's always been sharp, always on top of everything. Derek just wanted me to believe she wasn't. Derek's lawyer tried to discredit Nathan during cross-examination, calling him a turncoat and a liar. But Nathan held firm. I'm not lying, he said quietly. I'm finally telling the truth. Judge Torres didn't even leave the bench to deliberate. I've heard enough, he said, his voice hard. Mr. Derek Patterson, your petition for guardianship is denied. Not only has Mrs. Patterson proven she's mentally competent, but the evidence suggests this entire proceeding was filed in bad faith to cover up your own criminal activity. He turned to me. Mrs. Patterson, I'm granting your counter-petition for an emergency injunction. All assets of the family business are frozen pending full investigation. Mr. Derek Patterson is removed as operations manager effective immediately and barred from any company property. Derek shot to his feet. You can't do this. That's my company. I built it. Sit down, Mr. Patterson, Judge Torres said icily. You built it with stolen money. And I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal investigation. Court adjourned. Derek tried to reach me that night. Angry voicemails, threatening texts. You've destroyed everything, Mom. Everything Dad built. I hope you're happy. I deleted them all. Beth stayed with me that night, both of us too wound up to sleep. We sat in the kitchen drinking chamomile tea, the same kitchen where I'd raised her, where Joe and I had celebrated anniversaries, where our family had once been whole. Do you think Derek will ever forgive you? Beth asked quietly. No, I said, but I'm not sure I need him to. He made his choices, Beth. Now he has to live with them. And Nathan, I thought about my younger son. The way he'd broken down on the witness stand, the genuine remorse in his eyes. Nathan, I can forgive. He was manipulated, but he found the courage to do the right thing. That matters. Beth squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, Mom. You could have just accepted what Derek said, believed you were too old to fight. But you didn't. Neither would you have, I said, smiling at her. I raised you better than that. The criminal investigation moved faster than I expected. The district attorney's office assigned a prosecutor named Marcus Webb, a methodical man who'd built his career on white-collar crime cases. He treated me with respect, never once suggesting I was too old or too emotional to understand the legal process. Mrs. Patterson, he told me during our first meeting, your son committed multiple felonies. Wire fraud, embezzlement, insurance fraud, and elder financial abuse. The evidence is substantial. If convicted, he's looking at significant prison time. How significant? 10 to 15 years, possibly more. I sat with that number, trying to imagine Derek, my firstborn, the baby I'd rocked to sleep, the boy who'd climbed on Joe's shoulders, spending a decade behind bars. Do I have to testify? I asked. Eventually, yes. But Mrs. Patterson, you should know, Derek's attorney has approached us about a plea deal. My heart jumped. What kind of deal? Full restitution of all stolen funds, surrender of Roadmaster Logistics and all its assets, a guilty plea to reduce charges. In exchange, we'd recommend 5 years with possibility of parole after 3. 5 years instead of 15. It seemed like mercy. What do you think I should do? Marcus Webb looked at me with kind eyes. That's not my decision. This is your family, your pain. But I will say this, a trial would be brutal. Your son's attorneys will try to paint you as vindictive, as a bitter mother punishing her son for trying to take over a failing business. They'll drag your name through the mud. Are you prepared for that? Was I? I thought about sitting in a courtroom while Derek's lawyers called me senile, incompetent, a burden. I thought about the media coverage, the whispers in my small community, the judgment from people who didn't know the full story. But I also thought about justice. Real justice, not just the convenient kind. I need time to think, I said. That night, I called Nathan. He'd been staying with Beth, too ashamed to return to his own house where Derek had been a frequent visitor. When he answered, his voice was hoarse. Mom, Derek's been offered a plea deal, I said. 5 years instead of 15. What do you think? Silence. Then, what do I think? Mom, I don't have the right to think anything. I helped him steal from you. You also helped me stop him. Nathan, I need to know. If Derek takes this deal, can you live with it? Can you move forward? Another long pause. He's still my brother. Part of me wants to say, yes, take the deal, protect him. But Mom, if you'd asked me that question 6 months ago, I would have helped him destroy you. I was that far gone. Maybe Derek needs to face real consequences to understand what he did. Or maybe, I said softly, 5 years in prison is real enough. We sat in silence together, connected by phone lines and shared pain. I'll support whatever you decide, Nathan finally said. You're the one he hurt most. After we hung up, I made another call. I want to talk to Derek. Patricia Chen nearly dropped her phone. Mrs. Patterson, I strongly advise against that. Anything you say to him could be used. I don't care. Set it up. Supervised, recorded, whatever you need. But I want to see my son. She tried to argue, but I was firm. 3 days later, I sat across from Derek in a stark meeting room at his attorney's office. A court reporter sat in the corner. Patricia was beside me. Derek's lawyer, Sandra Mitchell, sat beside him. Derek looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his expensive clothes hanging loose. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He wouldn't look at me. Thank you for agreeing to meet, I began. He said nothing. Derek, they've offered you a plea deal. 5 years. You'd be out in 3 with good behavior. You'd be 60 when you're released. Still time to rebuild your life. His jaw clenched. Is that what you want? To see me locked up? What I want, I said carefully, is to understand why. Why you did this to me. To our family. To your father's legacy. Finally, he looked up, and what I saw in his eyes shocked me. Not defiance, not anger, but shame. Deep, devastating shame. Because I was never good enough, he said, his voice breaking. Dad always loved you more. The business was his way of loving you, and I was just there, managing it, but it was never really mine. And when he died, you still wouldn't let go. You kept hovering, questioning every decision, making me feel like a child playing at being a businessman. Tears were streaming down his face now. I convinced myself I deserved it, that I'd earned it by running things while you two played happy couple. And then it just spiraled. One transfer became 10, became 100. I told myself I was protecting my future, building something that was actually mine. But really, I was just angry. Angry at Dad for dying, angry at you for not dying, angry at myself for not being the son you both wanted. The words hung between us, raw and painful. Derek, I said gently, your father loved you completely. And so did I. You were good enough. You always were. But somewhere along the way, you started believing a lie. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. And now I've destroyed everything. The business, our family, your trust. Mom, I'm so sorry. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I looked at this broken man who used to be my little boy, and I felt something shift inside me. Take the plea deal, I said. Derek's head snapped up. What? Take the deal. Plead guilty, serve your time, make full restitution. And when you get out, if you've truly changed, we can talk about rebuilding. Not the business, not the money, but maybe eventually our relationship. You'd give me another chance? I'm your mother, Derek. That's what mothers do. But this is your last chance. You understand? One more betrayal, one more lie, and we're done forever. He nodded, tears flowing freely now. Thank you. Mom, thank you. Derek took the plea deal. The sentencing hearing was brief. He stood before Judge Torres and pleaded guilty to embezzlement, wire fraud, and elder financial abuse. He made a statement accepting full responsibility and apologizing to me, to his siblings, to everyone he'd hurt. Judge Torres sentenced him to 5 years in federal prison. As the marshals led him away, Derek looked back at me one last time. I nodded. Not forgiveness, not yet. But acknowledgement. A door left slightly open. The restitution process took months. Roadmaster Logistics was dissolved. Its assets, which were really our family company's assets, were returned. The stolen money was recovered from various accounts Derek had hidden it in. With Linda Wu's help, I restructured the business, bringing in new management and modernizing our operations. Nathan asked if he could return to the company. Not as a manager, he said quickly. Just as a driver. I want to start over, prove I can be trusted. No special treatment because I'm your son. I thought about it for a long time. Then I agreed with conditions. Weekly check-ins, full transparency, and counseling to address the manipulation he'd experienced. He agreed to everything. Beth took a more active role in the business, bringing fresh ideas and energy. Together, we transformed the company into something new, still honoring Joe's legacy, but adapted for the modern world. Within a year, we were profitable again. Within 2, we'd expanded into 3 new states. I visited Derek once, about 18 months into his sentence. The prison was a grim place, all concrete and razor wire. Derek wore an orange jumpsuit and looked older than his years. But there was something different in his eyes, a clarity that hadn't been there before. How are you? I asked. Getting by. I'm taking classes, business ethics ironically. And I've been going to therapy. Court ordered at first, but now I actually want to go. What are you learning? He smiled sadly. That I spent my whole life competing with a ghost. Dad's been gone for years, but I was still trying to prove something to him. To you. To myself. The therapist says I have some things to work through. We all do, I said gently. We talked for the full hour they allowed. About the business, about Beth and Nathan, about his plans for when he got out. He didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't make excuses. He just talked, like a son to his mother. When time was up, he hugged me tightly. I'm going to make you proud, Mom. When I get out, I'm going to be the man Dad raised me to be. I promise. I'll be waiting, I said. 2 years later, on a crisp October morning, I stood outside the prison gates. Derek walked out carrying a single bag, blinking in the bright sunlight. He was 58 now, his hair more gray than brown. But he stood straighter than I remembered, his eyes clear. Beth and Nathan were with me. We'd all agreed to be here for this moment. Derek saw us and stopped, his face crumbling with emotion. You came, he whispered. Of course we came, Beth said, moving forward to hug him. You're our brother. Nathan was next, the two of them holding each other and crying. Then Derek turned to me. Mom, welcome home, son. We didn't drive to his old house. That was gone, sold to pay restitution. Instead, we went to my cottage, a smaller place I'd bought after selling the big farmhouse. It felt like a new beginning for all of us. Over lunch, we talked about the future. I'm not asking for a job, Derek said quickly. I know I need to earn that, but I was hoping maybe I could volunteer, do some route planning, some basic logistics work, just to help out, prove I can be trusted. I looked at Nathan, who nodded, at Beth, who smiled. We'll try it, I said, slowly, with supervision. And Derek, one mistake, one lie, and you're done. Are we clear? Crystal clear. It wasn't perfect. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal overnight. There were hard conversations and setbacks. Days when old resentments flared up. Moments when I wondered if I was being foolish to give him another chance. But slowly, steadily, we rebuilt. 3 years after Derek's release, I stood in our company's new headquarters, a modest but modern building on the outskirts of Austin. We were celebrating our 50th anniversary in business. 50 years. Half a century of hauling freight, building relationships, surviving every challenge the road threw at us. The celebration was small. Our drivers and their families, a few loyal clients, my children and grandchildren. Derek was there too, now working full-time as our safety compliance officer. He'd rebuilt his life one careful step at a time, earning back the trust he'd shattered. As I looked around the room, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the pain, the legal battles. The anger and shame and slow, difficult process of healing. Mom, Beth appeared at my elbow, her own daughter on her hip. You okay? You look lost in thought. Just remembering, I said. Your father would be proud of what we've built here. He'd be proud of you, she corrected. For fighting back when it would have been easier to give up. For protecting what matters. Maybe she was right. I thought about the woman I'd been 5 years ago. Comfortable, trusting, perhaps a little too willing to step back and let others take control. That woman would have signed away her rights, accepted the loss, told herself it was for the best. But I wasn't that woman anymore. The fire I'd faced had forged me into something stronger. I'd learned that age doesn't diminish you unless you let it. That family loyalty is precious, but not more precious than truth and justice. That forgiveness is possible, but it has to be earned. And I'd learned that I was capable of far more than I'd ever imagined. Later that evening, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my office with a cup of tea and looked at the photos on my wall. Joe and me on our wedding day. The kids when they were small. The first truck we'd ever owned. And a new photo. All 3 of my children standing together at Derek's first day back at work. They weren't children anymore. They were scarred, complicated adults who'd made mistakes and faced consequences. But they were trying. We all were. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Thank you for today, Mom. For everything. I know I don't deserve the second chance you gave me. I won't waste it. I typed back. You're my son. I'll always give you the chance to be better. But Derek, keep being better. I will. I promise. I believed him. Not because I was naive, but because I'd seen the work he'd put in. The therapy, the amends, the humble way he'd accepted starting over at the bottom. People can change. Not always. Not easily. But sometimes. So that's my story, dear listeners. I'm 77 now. I still run my company, though Beth is taking over more responsibilities. Nathan is one of our best drivers and mentor to our newer hires. And Derek is rebuilding his life one day at a time. What did I learn from all this? I learned that betrayal can come from the people you love most. That trust, once broken, requires years to repair. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward despite the pain. I learned that you're never too old to fight for yourself. Never too old to demand respect. Never too old to start over. But most importantly, I learned that strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up, brushing yourself off, and taking the next step forward. My sons stole from me. They lied to me. They tried to destroy everything I'd built. But they didn't succeed. I'm still here. Still standing. Still building. And I'm not done yet. So I'll ask you, dear listeners, what would you have done in my place? Would you have fought, or would you have walked away? And if someone you loved betrayed you, could you find it in your heart to forgive them? Think about it. And remember, you're stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and more capable than anyone has ever given you credit for. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart or made you think, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story. And always, always know your worth. Until next time, this is Helen. Stay strong, dear friends.